All right, so in this next part of the section, we're going to talk about how to solve by graphing using our graphing calculator. So I have written out the instructions for using your calculator. So I'm not going to read these to you, but if you would like to pause the video, let's see if I can fit it all on the screen here. So so if you want to pause the video and copy these down, or even just to read through them real quick, go ahead and do that. And then I'm just going to talk through the process as I'm typing the information on my calculator. So if we take a look at our first problem, we have solved by graphing. So again, it has to be in standard form for us to be able to graph. And usually we want our squared term to be positive. So we're going to start by solving our equation so that everything is on the same side equal to 0. So I'm going to add the x squared term and then subtract the 14 at the same time. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip the equation so that my 0 is on the right. So we would have x squared minus 6x, and then we have to combine the 23 minus 14, so that's going to give us a positive 9, and then equals 0. So if we're going to solve by graphing, we're going to type this part into the y equals on our graphing calculator. So please write this down or pause the video so that you can write it down. And then we are going to switch to our graphing calculator. So you're going to want to start on the home screen. And then anytime we are graphing, we always want to go to the y equals. So I'm going to press y equals. If you have something in there, we want to clear it out. We also want to make sure that our plots are not highlighted, because sometimes you will get an error message if that's the case. And then we're just going to type in our equation. So we have x squared minus 6x, and then plus 9. And then I want to start in a standard window. So since I don't know what my last screen was, to start in a standard window, I'm going to press the zoom key at the top here. And then I'm going to select standard. So I'm either going to arrow down and then press enter, or if you just press the 6 key, that will also bring you to a standard window. So a standard window is just from positive 10 to negative 10 for the x and y's. All right, so looking at that, it looks like we are only going to have one solution. So it is intersecting our x-axis in one spot. Now sometimes you're zoomed out too far to tell that. So if we want, we can zoom in just to double check. So to zoom, I'm going to press the zoom key, and then I'm going to select zoom in. And then you want to move your cursor. So I'm using my up and down, left and right, and you should see this thing moving. So you want to move it to where you want the center of your screen to be. So I'm going to put it right on where I think the intercept is. So it just has to be close. And then I'm going to press enter, and that will zoom in the calculator. All right, so looking at that, it is only intersecting in one spot, so I'm going to calculate that. So that means we need to go to our calc menu. So second and then the trace key. And we are finding a 0. So I'm going to select the second option. Now your calculator is going to ask you some questions. It's going to ask you for a left bound, a right bound, and then a guess. So anytime your calculator says left bound, that means you need to be on the left side of whatever you're trying to find. Okay, so we're trying to find the 0. So our 0 is right about here. So I'm going to use my left and right arrow keys to move my cursor so that it's to the left of where I think that 0 is. Okay, so it just has to be somewhere on the left side. And it's okay to be a little bit farther away. So once it's on the left, we're going to press enter. So now it's asking you for the right bound. So if we're trying to find the right bound, that means that we have to be to the right of whatever we're trying to find. So again, we're trying to find this intersection right here. So that means that I need to move my cursor to the right of where that point is. Okay, so somewhere on the right side of it. And then we're going to press enter. So you should have noticed these two little arrows pop up. So whatever you're trying to find has to be in between these two arrows. And then whenever it says guess, we're just going to press the enter button. All right, so looking at this, it looks like it's 2.99999 and then 0. So there's a little bit of coding error sometimes in our calculators. So when you see that 0.999, we always round up to our nearest tenth. So we're going to say that's really the same as 3. So our answer then, because we care about the x value, so we want the y to be 0. So this has to be 0. And then our solution is going to be x equals 3. So back on our paper, we would write x equals 3 and then circle it to identify it as our answer.